Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. Good afternoon, Beer Geeks. I hope you've got a beer in your hand, because I don't think Brad will.
Oh, mate. I mean, we were supposed to be recording some other stuff today along with this podcast, and I am hanging pretty hard. I'll tell you why, Johnny.
He's Christian Baled on me.
That's it. I'm really sorry, man. I was trying to keep up with a bunch of Czech people drinking Czech beers, and those guys, I don't know if anyone's told you, but they're really good at drinking, Johnny. Far better than me.
I mean, they do literally have a national competition called the National Beer Belly Competition. You know, that's the kind of level you're operating at there, when you try to go toe to toe with a Czech lager drinker.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was out with my new friend Radim, who's a lovely dude, brand ambassador for Budvar, and I went out to Pivo with him. They did a Czech beer tasting competition. Judging competition, in fact. And I met him at 3 PM. We drank 3 pints of steady elsewhere. We were going to go to Michela, but it was shut for a private event. So we drank 3 pints of steady Rolling Man. Then we got a goose boon, and eyeing something or other. We basically got really drunk pre-drinking before we went to the Czech beer festival, so I'm not feeling too clever today.
I think if I'd been in your shoes, I'd have cancelled too, and probably cancelled the entire day just functioning. To be honest, that sounds heavy.
It was so crazy, man. Like he was like totally with it the whole time as well. That man has got like, I don't know, he's got like something going on in his body. He's able to metabolize.
Probably breakfast and lunch, which is not something that you always do before a drinking session.
I had a pizza. Pilgrims. I was sorted. I was sitting in the sunshine eating a pizza Pilgrims at 2:00 in pre-preparation for this beery Czech beer evening. But yeah, still just crazy, man. Like the beers were great, by the way. And anyone who hasn't been to Pivo, go check it out, because it's.
Were you using Untapped to note what you were drinking, or is that lost to the mists
I tell you
of
what
time
we were
now?
doing. No, it was far lost in the mist of time. Somehow we were voting on our phones. Like, we logged into this website. We were voting on our phones, and it was popping up on the flat screen TVs around the room live.
Wow, drinking in the future.
It was very futuristic, mate. And as the night got darker and deeper, I was finding it incredibly hard to use the voting software, so I just sort of gave up at one point. But yeah, it was all great beers, and lots of Czech brewers were over for it as well. So yeah,
amazing!
Had a great night, man. It was really cool. I thought I was going to be in for some goulash, but there wasn't as much food as I was hoping for. Hence my terrible hangover. But yeah.
Well, there we go. It sounds like you had a lovely time.
Oh, yeah.
I, meanwhile, was editing together the 5-part docuseries that we are on the verge of releasing. We're now barely a fortnight away from the biggest project we've ever done, and I include the feature-length documentary in that. It is a massive task, but it sounds like I didn't make much progress last night. I probably should have just come out, and then who would be leading this podcast? Who would be keeping this train moving? It would just be two existential crises trying to talk over a mobile phone on a Friday.
I'm having a meltdown.
Another meltdown. Speaking of the docuseries that we're working on, it took us. We're on to our we did our penultimate shoot. We've got one more to go. We did that at the Old Fountain this week on Tuesday, which is where it all began. The Craft Beer Channel, our spiritual home.
That's it. It was just as good as the first time I walked through those doors. Like stars in their eyes. Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to be Brad from the Craft Beer Channel. It was great. It was a spiritual homecoming, and really awesome to be able to sort of put them in to this big, sort of thing we're working on. So, loved it.
Yeah, and it was nice to. I stood behind the bar for the first time. I pulled a very bad pint.
You did.
We went down into the cellar.
Yeah.
You got my bad pour on video, did you?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Oh bollocks. Okay. Well, that's going straight on the cutting room floor. So yeah, that was great fun. I think you all know it's all about cask ale and trying to champion cask ale, so that's why we were there, where they still serve great beer and gallons upon gallons of Oakham Citra, which is still the glorious beer it was when it was first brewed about, probably over 20 years ago, I think now, because it was the first beer in the UK, I think, that brewed with Citra. So it must be a long, long time ago now. But I mean, we've had an incredibly busy week. So Brad earned his Thursday night. I was also on Monday. I recorded with the venerable Beer O'Clock Show, or Hopinions as it's now sort of known, and that came out yesterday morning. So it's a 2-hour. Mammoth podcast. I mean, all of their podcasts are very long, but that one was particularly long, in which we talked about my book, and also we talked about the joys, the trials and tribulations of running a YouTube channel. It got quite businessy as the barley wine started to hit, and I started to make my appeals to people to come to YouTube and rising tide floats all boats, and try and create lots more great content, because at the moment it's still only us sort of getting out there and making stuff outside of the home. And it's kind of, it would be really nice to see lots more British people taking the approach that Pellicle and Good Beer Hunting do, but via video like we try to. So we talk lots about that, and also how you can't make any money from it. So I don't know why I'm telling other people to do it. So yeah, that came out yesterday, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes, because I think it's a really nice podcast, and you'll get loads of behind the scenes looks at my book as well. And speaking of my book, this week the first 2 collaboration beers that I brewed are coming out. So the Lost and Grounded. So I collaborated with 4 breweries to talk to represent the seasons.
Yes.
And so the first one came out. That's Lost and Grounded's Sunshine State of Mind, which is a single decocted Czech Pilsner.
Lovely.
I'd love to have known how it would have scored last night, but obviously it wouldn't have scored anything with you because you stopped scoring. But that's out, and you can buy that from Lost and Grounded. And then my Daya one comes out this week as well, so that's called Sunny Spells. That represents spring, and we tried to recreate the aromas and the flavours of rain-soaked pine forests, of new flower growth.
Nice. Of
zesty lighter foods, and a slight sort of boozy warmth, like the first day of summer where there's sun on your face that actually warms you.
Lovely. Did you say rain-soaked pine forest? I like that as a description.
Oh yeah, I did.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
I'd like to smell like rain-soaked pine forest. I wish they made that as a fragrance. I think it would be lovely. Very, very lovely.
Yeah, great bathroom smell, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe I'll cut down a pine tree and just stick it in my steamy bathroom.
In your shower.
Same effect, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Excellent.
So those are out, and then the one with Elusive, which is a green hopped golden ale, and a barley wine from Siren will be following. I think they'll be released just before the book, around the 22nd, 23rd. But you can now, I believe, if there's a link in the show notes, then you can. If there isn't, then you can't quite, and I'll announce it on social and in our Patreon forum. But you can now pre-order the packs that come with the 4-pack of beers and the book from beer merchants.
Nice.
So you can order that probably now. And you could drink those whenever you want and read the book, or you could then hold on to them. They ship around the 30th of September, I think. You could hold on to them to the 14th of October when we'll be doing a live show where we'll be tasting through the beers, hopefully chatting to some of the brewers and talking about the book. So lots of dates for the diary there. I've thrown them at you, but I'll put them all in the show notes so that you don't have to remember. And also you can look for my book tour, which I'll put the dates in the show notes as well, because I'll be travelling all around England. Lots of people are saying come to Newcastle and Edinburgh, so I'll see if I can squeeze that in. But that might have to happen a bit later in the year. So, yeah, that's all. Oh, no, that's not all my news. Bradley.
What are you doing today, Johnny?
The other exciting... Exactly, yeah. So 2 weeks ago we put a video live all about our feelings around Untapped, and not just the negatives of it, and there are definitely negatives for the industry as a whole, but the joys of it on a personal level and why we love it. But anyway, so I sent that to the head of marketing at Untapped, who we've had some conversations with, and she said, well, let's have a chat about it.
Amazing.
So in a couple of hours' time, I'm going to be sitting down for a Zoom call with the head of product design at Untapped. I have no expectations, no idea what we're going to talk about. All of the ideas that I put out there, I'm sure they've considered before. So what I hope to get out of it is, an explanation of why they haven't done many of the things that we suggested. I don't think Untapped is going to be changing anything based of what one guy in his dining room said on YouTube.
Power of the YouTube. But you never know, Johnny.
Could be the power of the YouTube, yeah. The other thing that I didn't really think about when I made the videos, we talked about rating by style, so only comparing Pilsners to Pilsners or whatever and giving a score alongside the overall score. And I said they should look at Rate Beer and how it's done. And then I remembered that Next Glass, who own Untapped, also own Beer Advocate, where they do that. So it's clearly a conscious choice in Untapped not to do it. So I'm intrigued to hear what the thinking is behind that. So yeah, that's exciting, and we'll talk about that in the podcast next week.
Cool. Yeah, great stuff.
Should we talk about the video?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I think it's a very, very exciting video series.
Yeah, it's quickly become one of our more ambitious projects.
Kind of spiraled there, didn't it?
It did a little bit. Spiraled so much that it's actually going to be a 3-episode series rather than a 2.
That's a big one.
Which does mean we'll be uploading on a Sunday. So we're going to have the next episode on Wednesday and then a final episode on Sunday, just because our big project starts the following Wednesday. So we've had to sort of shoehorn it in. But that is just more Craft Beer Channel content. That's why you join our Patreon, don't you, everybody? You join our Patreon, don't you, everybody?
Yeah.
You join our Patreon, don't you, everybody?
Patreon.
Yeah, I think we got the message across. So this week we visited Square Root to learn all about their cola, because we were making the perfect sour beer to make a cola shandy based off of a bit of a summer romance we had with a cola shandy invented by Robin of Square Root at Bigfoot.
Summer loving happened so fast.
Oh my god, I'm going to cut that out as a soundbite, and I'm going to be using that. Maybe that's the new intro to the pod.
Great stuff. It was amazing. It was an amazing thing that we kind of came up with at Bigfoot. I say we. I didn't really have a big part in it, but I was absolutely blown away by the flavour of it, and what it tastes like is almost exactly what it, like the Haribo, which is one of my favourite things in the world. So, yeah, it's an amazing shandy. Or is it a shandy, Johnny? Who can say?
Well, yes. We'll dive into the comments, shall we?
Let's do it. So we had a comment from John Merrick. I'm guessing not the John Merrick. Wasn't John Merrick the Elephant Man? I believe. Anyway, John Merrick said, not to quarrel over terms. He says, proceeding to quarrel over terms. But isn't it a diesel when made with cola? So John is suggesting that it ain't no shandy, Mandy. But it's a diesel, Stevesel.
Oh, a diesel Vin Diesel.
It's a diesel Vin Diesel. Yeah. What do you reckon?
Well, so yeah, I don't think I'd ever heard of a diesel before. So obviously, I went straight to Wikipedia, and it seems that your man with the comment is right, depending on where you are in the world.
Right. So in Germany, it could be called a diesel, and it does go by that name.
Yeah, it definitely seems that Germany is the ones that talk about diesel, but there's no sort of set recipe on what a diesel is. Although they do all seem to include cola, but it could be with a Hefeweizen, it could be with a Pilsner or an alt beer, it could be with a Kolsch, it could be with a stout. I'm not sure you have many of those in Germany, but it's basically a cola shandy. But then, if you go to Slovenia, apparently a diesel is a shandy of lager and cocktail soda.
Ooh.
I don't know what cocktail soda is. Maybe it is Coke. Sounds like it might be just Slovenian for Coke.
Yeah.
And then apparently in the UK, that's what you call a snake bite. But I thought we called a snake bite a snake bite.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone ask for a diesel or refer to a snake bite as a diesel. But I guess maybe that's just not the circles we're moving in anymore, Johnny. I certainly haven't ordered a snake bite probably in 20 years. And I'm not sure you're allowed to order a snake bite anymore, are you? Didn't they outlaw them?
Well, see, I don't know whether that's true because, there's no reason to think that a snake bite would get you any more drunk than anything else because it's just combining two forms of pretty similar alcohol.
Yeah.
So I don't see why you'd legislate for that. It's no more, as far as I know, no more intoxicating than just a pint of lager or just a pint of cider.
Well, this is the thing, right? It was always, when you're a student nights and stuff, people would drink it and you'd think it would get you extra messy. Like it gets you drunker faster, potentially, before the days when we cared about what stuff tasted like. I don't know about that. I mean, do you remember ages ago I said, can we do a video about a craft snake bite, like the ultimate craft snake bite, which I think would probably be a terrible idea. It'd probably ruin everything that went into it. But I'd be interested to taste what the potential of a snake bite could be.
Brad, I've got to interrupt you because I'm down a snake bite hole, a snake hole right now.
Yeah.
And I have found, right, so the belief that it's illegal to serve it seems to be partly stemming from an incident in 2001 when former US President Bill Clinton was refused a snake bite. I don't know why he's ordering one. When he ordered one at the Old Bell Tavern in Harrogate, Yorkshire.
What?
The pub manager, Jamie Allen, incorrectly said it's illegal to serve it here in the UK.
Wow. I mean, my bigger question is, why the fuck is Bill Clinton drinking a snake bite? That is weird.
I mean, he did lots of things that he probably regrets.
Yeah.
So that's one of the smaller ones, I'd imagine.
Jeez.
The other thing I want to note before we move on from snake bites is that diesel can also refer to the use of cola and an alt beer and a shot of kirsch, which is a cherry liqueur.
Oh, okay. So that's
which is somewhere along the lines of what we're kind of making.
Kind of, isn't it? Yeah, that is closer than close. There you go. Inspiration.
So
we didn't even know it, but it's come from.
We thought we were living in the future, but actually Germany's been living in it for a long time.
That's it.
There you go. Any other comments you wanted to dig into?
Yeah, I mean, I've just got lots of silly comments that people are, talking about my shorts. Brian Dodd said, loving Brad's shorts. Chris Green said, there's something really appealing about Brad wearing a beard net. I'm not sure there is, Chris Green. And then we had Brother John, 2002, said, spent the whole time looking for the infamous sandals and nothing. I am disappointed. Yes, so there was a lot of sandals.
Yeah, the shandals, the shandals. There we go, combining shandy and sandals now. The sandals did get a little pre-release on Instagram, because I loved Brad's outfit, particularly next to Robin's. So I put that live, and now people are. I mean, he's watching the video, and the main thing he's looking out for is the sandals. It's not a great indictment on our content, but I am still sorry that you didn't get to see the most important thing in our epic 3-part homebrew series.
Yeah, I
Maybe we'll bring them back.
I'm pretty sure I've talked about me not being able to walk in flip-flops on the podcast before. If I haven't, I can't walk in flip-flops. I will literally they'll just fall off my feet. Don't know why. Don't know how anyone walks in them, to be honest. Like the kind of Havaiana type things that you see everyone rocking about in. But I tell you what, Johnny, my feet were getting so boiling this summer when we were filming in various breweries up and down the land that I had to do something. Usually I wear boots, Red Wing, quite heavy duty boots when we're walking around a brewery. But that day, I very stupidly thought, I'll wear some sandals because I've recently got sandals that my feet don't fall out of. So they're kind of really strappy. I think someone said they look like they're Nan sandals. They were, just generally got dissed for my sandals from all angles. But I tell you what, mate.
They are normcore in the extreme, Brad.
I thought they're pretty jazzy. They're Tevas, which is like a sort of cool like California brand.
I think it's what Jeremy Corbyn wears on holiday.
Probably. It is a little bit Jesus sandal, to be fair. They are quite hippie looking. But I was just enjoying the liberation that my big Tonys had. They were unleashed to the world.
Although you then had to put wellies on for the actual tour because you can't go around a food production facility with open toes.
Sweaty wellies. Some other poor buggers' wellies I had to put on without socks. Yeah. So I'm really sorry whoever's wellies.
I think we need to put a trigger warning on this one like we did with the dentistry episode. Anyway, so I've got a comment from Lucas Jaeger.
Oh, yeah.
Who said, did you come across making sour beers with sourdough during your research? Your video on lambics from April inspired my bread baking lady friend and me to try this. It was a pretty normal brewing process, except for the sourdough being a pain in the butt to clean out of the fermenter. The resulting beer was phenomenal with hints of raspberry and cherries, but I barely found anything on the internet on this topic. So you can definitely brew with sourdough. I think it's alcohol tolerance. Sourdough yeast. I think its alcohol tolerance is pretty low. It depends on the strain that you get, because obviously sourdough is like the lambic production method of bread baking. So if you don't know how you make a sourdough, you just sort of make a little starter like flour and water and just leave it on your windowsill for a couple of days, couple of weeks, and it gets wildly inoculated. You can 100% brew with that. And while Beerco did it, I think 4 or 5 years ago, they made they called it a saison because I think that was the closest they could kind of find to tell people what it was going to taste like. And it was, just like a mixed firm saison that was delicious. And I think it's certainly something I'd like to look into. It's sort of yeast wrangling. You capture whatever's near you and pitch it rather than, cool the wort and let stuff get straight into it. So you're pitching it, but it's still wild. I've always had plans to do like a really like cheapest possible way of home brewing at home video. And I think we could do that. And then the next logical development would be cheapest way of making a wild beer at home.
I like it.
And I'd almost certainly use that method.
Sounds great, man. I liked his...
So that was a great comment, and I'd love to give it a go. Thanks, Lucas.
Yeah, nice one, Lucas. I like your description of your bread baking lady friend. Reminds me of the dude in The Big Lebowski who calls Maud his special lady friend or something. So yeah, good one, Lucas. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. There you go. We've got a home brewing dude. So thank you for all the comments on that. We've also had lots of lovely comments about sort of our more narrative approach to home brewing, which is exactly what we aim for. So I'm glad people are enjoying that kind of format because there's so much great technical homebrew stuff out there. And we wanted to do something that's a little bit more us. And I'm really glad it's working. So thanks for all the views. We've got the next episode going live next week, which is sort of the brew day. So taking you literally through how to make a sour beer, the pitfalls, and indeed the adventures that you'll have making it. And I had plenty of adventures making it. The bit I didn't include is where I blew the plug because I used a really cheap kettle lead with the wrong ampage. I decided to cut that out. It was not the Grainfather's fault.
You told me you killed about 3 plugs doing that.
Two it might have been 2. It might have been 2.
Yeah.
I was in full on crisis mode. I can't really remember the brew day, so I'm glad I filmed most of it. Like I was editing it, going, I don't remember filming that.
Oh god!
And it must have been just after a plug went.
You zoned out.
But yeah. I think I'm going to let you go back to bed, Bradley. I think we'll call it quits there. But yeah, so check out the show notes for links to buy the book and the beer pack, links to buy the beers independently from those different breweries, and watch out on Wednesday for the next episode of our homebrew. What is it? It is an adventure. It's almost I call it an epic.
It's an odyssey, mate. It's an odyssey.
An odyssey.
Into
that's the word.
And fizzy sourness.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go, that's live. And then, of course, next week we'll have another episode just on the way, and then we get into the big unveil of what we'll be doing for the next 5 weeks, which I'm really, really excited to put out there and tell you about, finally.
Yeah, man.
Next Friday.
Amazing.
Alrighty, well, until then, love and beer. The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the craft beer channel. And if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.